everyone, I'm Stephanie Licata, and I'm excited to join in the Unlocking EQ conversation, especially about a topic that I'm super excited and passionate about, which is making quality decisions. So when we think about the decisions we make in our own lives, those decisions may affect one or two people, or maybe in the people in our family. But in organizations, when we are in leadership positions or when we work on teams, the decisions that we make can have a ripple effect on our colleagues, our teammates, our entire organization, and even our customers. So it's important to think about not how do I make a quality decision, right? But to examine what's my existing decision-making process and how can I look to that to see what can take it to the next level. So I'm going to share with you some ways that you can really transform your internal organizational decision-making process, specifically if you are, on a team that is making larger decisions that impact your organization. So the first thing you want to do is just also identify what's so, right? So identify and capture your current team organizational decision-making process. So what happens during it? Do we make hasty decisions? Do we talk on end? Do we get stuck in analysis paralysis? Are we very efficient with our time? Do we bring in a lot of stakeholder feedback? Are we gathering feedback at all before we make those decisions? So you want to identify and capture and even document your existing decision-making process. The next thing you want to do after you look at that and enhance it and practice trying some new things out is to create a separate strategy for how organizational decisions are going to be communicated. And you want to do that based upon the content of the message. So if a decision's been made that we're going to now offer coffee in the break room, that's probably not a decision that takes much thought about how and when we're going to communicate it. But if you're going to communicate a large process change, it's going to impact workflow, impact people's roles. You need to really think about the strategy for communicating that decision. Sometimes we think that email is the best way to tell everyone everything because it's really quick. Well, I'm going to share with you one of my favorite quotes, which I have to say, I came up with this one day in a training and I just said it and I keep saying it. Email is for notification, not communication. Communication has the word commune, to come together in it. And so when we want to communicate, we have to ask ourselves, is the method that we're using bringing people together? Email doesn't really bring people together. Email's true purpose is for, here are the notes of today's meeting. Let me know if you have any questions. Or here's my proposal. Can you please give me some feedback? It's for notification. It's for delivering documents. It's not necessarily to broadcast a large decision that impacts a lot of people. So we want to make sure that we have a separate communication strategy for how we communicate those decisions based upon their content. Now, also in your decision-making process, you want to include some debrief and evaluation. So let's say you make a decision, you communicate that decision. You don't want to just set it and forget it. You want to allow some time to pass and gather some more feedback. Evaluate, how are things going with that decision that we made? Is there anything we need to change? Is there anything we need to adjust? So you want to make sure that that decision and its impact stays on your team's radar to be able to go back to and make any adjustments as needed. So also, when you are making important decisions, you want to think about the frequency and the cadence in which you meet with your team to make those decisions. Have you ever had a really great meeting and you're all energized, and then all of a sudden you're sitting at your desk eating lunch and you're like, oh, something just came to me and now the meeting's over, right? So people often have ideas like popcorn, right? Things tend to percolate after an initial meeting and then they pop a couple of hours later. Sometimes they pop right before you're about to go to sleep and you're like, oh, I have to remember that, and you're jotting things down, right? So you really want to make sure that you schedule multiple sessions for making a decision, not a million sessions, right? You don't want to get stuck in meeting hell, right? But a couple of different sessions where there's some time for introspection, there's some time for that popcorn, those popcorning of ideas, and really give people the time to process information. Okay. Sometimes the best outcomes happen after individuals really have had that time to reflect. Again, you don't want to drag it out too long, but you don't want to just try to make one decision-making session be the be-all and end-all. The next thing you also want to do is make sure to put together a formal feedback process that you're going to use to incorporate into your decision makers making. So, for example, are you going to use a survey? If it's a large impact decision about process or role, are you going to include stakeholder feedback? Are you going to ask employees for their feedback? It's really important that even if you don't take every suggestion from some of this feedback, that you take the time to get the feedback, that you at least acknowledge that you appreciate their contribution in giving you some of that critical information that allows you to reflect. And the last thing is really personal to us. It's practicing identifying your gut reactions when you find yourself in the midst of decision making. So if you think about the decisions you've made in your own life, when you feel calm, what does your body feel like? When you feel anxious, what does your body feel like? So really trying to understand those signals. So when you're sitting in that decision making meeting, you're paying attention to your gut. What feels right? What feels that a certain decision is most in service of our team or our organization? What feels a little bit authentic or inauthentic, or what feels really authentic, right? So you want to be able to practice that, your own self-awareness, so that when you are participating in larger group decision-making conversations, you can really trust your gut and contribute your best self and your best thoughts to that decision-making process. So again, when you think about making quality decisions, it's really important to think about the road that you take to get there. And that actually will impact the quality of that decision in the end. So also understand that decision-making processes are living things. They evolve over time. So remain open as leaders, as team leaders, to really think about how can we continually evolve our decision-making process and make sure that we're injecting that emotional intelligence into how we think, how we communicate, and ultimately how we decide. Thank you so much, and here's to quality decision making.